Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro channel, and today we're looking at this Xbox 360. It is in a very sorry state. It's obviously missing the front cover here, along with the DVD drive cover and the eject button, and around the back we have a busted HDMI port. But also around the back I can see from the power supply that this is a Jasper revision, so it is the last in line of the fat Xbox 360s, and that also makes it pretty much the most reliable. Being that it's a Jasper, I think it's worth trying to save. Let me get this plugged in and I'll show you what it does. If we power this thing on, we do get green flashing light, which usually means there's an issue with the disk drive. Either it's not being detected properly or it's stuck in an open closed state. But at the moment you can see we don't have any red rings, and if I plug in an AV cable, obviously I can't plug in a HDMI cable, but if we do the AV cable, it should start to boot. And it does. So it is still working, which is again expected for a Jasper model because they don't have the overheating issues of the previous models, or at least not as badly. Let's try and sync a controller. See if the tray will open. No, but I can hear it trying to open. So the drive is obviously stuck, but the console does appear to work normally apart from that. And if we look in our settings, we are running dashboard 16202, which I think isn't the final version for the dashboard. So I guess this was used up until maybe 2016 thereabouts. I think the final version is like 2018, but I may have that completely wrong. Anyway, it powers up. It appears to work, so let's get this thing opened up, see if we can fix the HDMI port, obviously clean all this out, and see what's up with this DVD drive. So, tools you will need to open a FAT 360, a T10 and a T8 Torx bit, and either a flat blade screwdriver or, highly recommended, one of these Xbox 360 pry tools. Also highly recommended, an X-clamp removal tool. You'll do a lot less potential damage using one of these over a flat blade screwdriver. So let's get this thing opened up. We'll start by just removing the hard drive. And normally you'd remove the front panel here, but that's already missing, so don't have to worry about that. And then it's just a matter of getting these side covers off, which is where either this tool or a flat blade screwdriver, or even the X-clamp removal tool. This might even be better. So if we poke this in on the hard drive side, down through these slots up the front here, and lift up a little bit, there's a clip hidden behind there somewhere. So you should be able to feel it, and it should pop open once you've found it. Then it's just a matter of moving to the middle clip, which you can see through these tiny vent holes, pushing that in a little bit. And same on the other side. And then there's one more at the back. And there is one more underneath this foot here, but usually once you've got the top one open, the other one should open up as well. And a similar story on the other side. So there are clips hiding under here, and it looks like one of them is already broken off. In fact, that might be what's rattling around inside. So we'll get this front one and then the middle one, and usually the other side will come open if you sort of twist it around a little bit. And then finally the one at the rear, and we're good. Next is to remove the bottom shell. So at the front of the console, you'll need to open up these clips along the front. So just kind of use your fingers to force this open while you release the clips. So there's one under this warranty label, which has already been broken, I can see. And I can't quite get this tool under it. That's annoying. Something a little bit thinner. And And the front should pop open like that, but you can't open this up just yet. You need to go around to the back side, and moving around to the rear of the console, that's where this tool is invaluable. So if we look above the power supply, there are two holes in the back of the case, and these two prongs are what we use to poke those in. So poke those in and just kind of hold the case open with one hand, and coming down to the other end, we push all these ones in, and with any luck, if the other side doesn't snap back together, we'll have an open console. And yeah, there's a decent amount of dust, nothing too serious at the moment. Right, now we need to remove the top shell, and normally if we had our drive eject button, you would lift that off, but it's already missing on this machine, so we don't have to worry about that. We're just going to remove the 6 T10 Torx bits from around the outsides and the 2 in the middle. So this one up here, this one here, this one in the middle, and the other one in the middle, and the 2 on the outer edges of the left-hand side. And with all those removed, that should be enough to get the top case off, which came off very easily. And normally there's an RF shield in the top case, which is also missing. So definitely someone's had to play around in here before. Oh, and there is a missing clip, which looks like somebody already tried to glue it back on. So that would have come from this side. Not a big deal. All right. Oh, and I can see that the drive actually has a dent in the lid. That could be why it doesn't want to eject. I wonder if there's still a disc in there. Not holding out much hope for this drive. Maybe it wasn't reading discs properly, and I think somebody may have actually bashed the 360 because it obviously wasn't reading discs, and managed to actually dent the drive cover. Well, I'll worry about the drive later. First, I want to get to that HDMI port and see if we can replace it. So for now, our drive is just going to get unplugged, and it can sit aside over there. Let's get this fan shroud off. So there is sort of a clip back here that needs to be pushed in. And again, it's a little bit too thick to get in there. Yeah, not terrible, but dustier than I'd like. Right, to get the board out, we need to remove the shroud over this power LED front panel and remove these 3 T8 Torx bits. And then we should be able to just pull this off. It's plugged in down in this bottom left corner here. We also need to remove the fans from the rear, so unplug them from the board, and then you kind of lift up on this metal piece and pull the fans forward. And that should be enough to lift them out, and yeah. Final thing to do is just remove all the remaining screws in the rear. So I'll start with the X-clamp screws. So they're all T8 bits, and I couldn't be bothered changing my driver at the moment. And then we need to pull out the remaining T10 bits. Right, with all the screws removed, we can flip this back over and the board should lift up from the front. And then you can pull it out. And there's another bit of plastic. Ew. I will replace the thermal paste, but first I want to tackle this HDMI port. So I do have a spare one here. I actually stole this off the Xbox 360 that I modded a few months back. Yeah, that one eventually died. And when I took it back to stock, I found that it had a 0022 red ring error, which I think is a failure in the CPU. So no hope for that one, but there is hope for this machine. And if I can get this all back up and running properly, we'll look at modding this with the RGH 1.2. No doubt these ports are also available on places like AliExpress, so I'm sure you can find them there as well. But seeing as I had a donor parts board, I figured I'd just take the port off it. To get our HDMI port out, we first need to remove the AV connector on top of it. So that is all through hole, and you can see all the points down here and a couple of mounting tabs either side. So we need to desolder all this, but because these boards have, massive ground planes, I'm also going to use a bit of hot air just to keep the board warm while I use the desoldering gun to actually remove all the solder. So the first thing I'm going to do is just apply some leaded solder to the unleaded solder on all these pins, just to sort of get everything flowing a little bit easier. And these will take a bit. Could also get some extra flux in here, but I'm not going to bother. I think we can manage without it. Alright, everything is nice and messy. Now what I'm going to be using is the desoldering gun. I've got it set to about 375 degrees C, and I'm also going to get some hot air on this, so this is at about 200 degrees, and this will just help keep the board warm while we try and desolder all these many pins. So most of the signal pins look like they came unstuck, but all those pins that are connected to ground are still fighting me. So if I had low melt solder, I'd be using that right now, but we're just going to go with some more leaded solder and try again. Whew. There it is. So yeah, quite a challenge just to get to that point, and we haven't even tackled the HDMI connector yet. That's the next fun part. Alrighty, to get the HDMI connector off, I'm first just going to remove the solder from the mounting pins on the bottom side. And I might also attack it from the top side as well, because once again, these boards just soak up the heat. Right, I'm hoping that is going to be enough to free this HDMI port. So the next thing we're going to do is just throw some fresh solder on the rear connectors here. I'm not worried about destroying this port, obviously, because it's already broken. So at least with some fresh leaded solder, should make getting this thing off a little bit easier. Come on. All right, now we just need to clean up. Alrighty, time for the new port, so let's bring out the microscope. Alright, so here is our HDMI connector. So I'm going to go over this with a bit of flux and some fresh solder just to tin up these pads. That looks pretty good. Now for our replacement connector. And a side note, I have never replaced a HDMI connector before, so we'll see how this goes. Wish me luck. It might all end in tears. And this hole right here is giving me trouble. I can see there's still some solder stuck in there. Alright, let's get this connector in. That went in pretty nicely. Now we just need to solder all these little pins. So I'm going to try and use hot air for this. Hopefully that'll work out. I'll get some more flux on there. Bring on the hot air. I'm just going to try and push this connector down onto the board. Shh. Thank you. All right, let's see what happened. Oh. These pins are not moving. This is good. All right, looks like all the pins are solid. Now, I'm not going to say it's better than factory. Like I said, that was my first go, so let's not go there. Let's clean this up, see if it can look any better. There we go, after a little clean, that's not bad. I did manage to melt the connector a little bit. I might have actually done that when I first took this thing off the other board though. But yeah, all the pins are solid. So let's solder in the mounting posts and then give this thing a test. All right, I'm not going to put the AV connector on just yet. Let's try the HDMI first. I think it should work just fine without this actually being installed, as long as the HDMI works, of course. Let's find out. Might just throw the fans on here just to try and keep these things somewhat cool. Disgusting fans. Make sure the bench doesn't have any solder flecks on it. This, we need the front board. And hopefully this will go in nicely. That feels good. Okay. Let's see. It's powering on. And we have video output. I was worried for a second there. It took a little bit longer than I'd hoped. But our video output, we have sound. Everything is coming up Millhouse. All right, sweet. Let's get the rest of the AV connector back on and then we'll take a look at this disk drive. Yep, I'm happy with that. Let's open up this drive, see what's going on. And I just noticed that warranty seal has already been broken. Okay. The spindle in the top plate has been pushed out and the little magnet is stuck to the top of it. And there's some more of the spindle. It's not looking good. Let's remove this label so we can free the rest of it. Does the magnet live in between those? Yeah, I think the magnet usually lives in there, and then this usually sits over the top cover like that, obviously without the magnet trying to grab to everything, and then this sort of clips into place. But I'm not going to put the top cover back on because it's bent out of shape at the moment. I really just want to see if this drive works at all. So I'm going to clip these back in. Oh, I've just realized that that plastic piece is broken anyway. That's not going to work. All right, well, never mind that. Let's just see if the drive seems to function. If it can eject, then we might be in luck. There is some other ways we can test this out still. So we still have the flashing light at the front, which means it thinks the drive is either open or in a weird state. I can hear the motor trying to eject the drawer. The motor's trying to get it to go back in, but yeah, it's more the belt that's the issue, I think. And the fact that it's really dirty. Caked in dust. Oh yeah, it's very hard. Just clean out these tracks. Find a belt. Ooh, I like the look of these. That looks pretty good. And it's already getting covered in dust. This thing needs a good clean out, but we're not going to bother about cleaning it out until we know if it at least somewhat works. All right, let's power on again. That's what we want to see. And I saw the DVD laser worked. Well, it at least turned on. So that's also a good sign. The CD laser is usually invisible, so not 100% sure if that's going to work just yet. Just going to get my little shaved down test disc and we'll see if the laser responds to it. Yes, I can hear it's trying to focus on it. And I can see it's trying to focus on it. So that's a good sign. Means the laser might actually still be working. It could have just been that that belt had gone bad and whoever owned this thing got the shits with it and bashed it on top. But we might still be in luck with this one. Let me sort out this top case. It's going to need a little bit of panel beating, and I'll try and find a replacement spindle piece. I think I can steal one from another drive. All right, I've given the drive a clean out and also bashed the dent out of the lid, so that should be good enough. I also managed to find another plastic drive clamp thingy-majiggy. So this is the broken one. This is the one I'm going to replace it with, so you can see that it's not missing a big chunk of plastic up here. So that should be good to go. All we need to do is put this part under here, and then this metal disc with the magnet already in between goes on top, and it just kind of twist it around until you find the spot where it drops down, and then twist it back the other way to lock it into place. That should be good to go. So we can reapply our label. And while I've still got this open, we probably should give the lens a quick clean. I'll just go over it with a little bit of IPA, just because I knocked a lot of dust around. So hopefully it hasn't gone under the lens, but I guess we'll see. Surprised there's not a cover over this lens. Usually there's another black plastic cover. I wonder if these drives just don't have them, or if this one's been removed at some point. Anyway, that should be good to go. Let's throw the covers back on. Screws must have been these. Some screws back in this thing. Cool. Oh, and I do have a front cover somewhere. Where did I put it? Here we go. Lovely. All right, let's hook all this back up. And yes, I knocked the dust out of everything else while I was at it. So put our fans back in and just give this drive a quick test. All right, let's power this thing on. The drive should do something. All right, power's on okay. It's a little bit rickety. Alright, I think I just need to fix up this lid a little bit better. Yep. Give me a minute, I'm just going to bash the crap out of this lid one more time. Alright, the top cover's copped another beating. Hopefully that's going to be good enough for it not to make a bunch of weird noises, but I guess we'll see. Oh, better put this back in. And I also greased up the rails while I was in here. Forgot to do that before. Let's see what happens this time. Sounds happy at the moment, but when I put the label on last time, it didn't sound so great. I'm gonna have to put some new double-sided tape on this, I think. The draw's a little bit juddery, but this thing's copped quite a beating in the past, so in fact the front of it's all messed up here. Let's put a game in it. Good old Guitar Hero. I hope this thing will actually read the disc. Hey! Right. It seems to be working. I won't run that for too long because we don't have the fans and everything else in the right places, so I don't want this thing to overheat. But the drive appears to work. So, final thing to do is replace this thermal paste. Let's take this little front board off again and get these X-clamps off. So, with the X-clamp removal tool, it's very simple. You just come in under one corner of it and lever it up. Only the middle ones are a little bit tricky because you can't really get in there very well. Let's loosen up the other one. There we go. Yep, that is some very dry and crusty thermal paste. Let's get to cleaning. Try out some of these things. They're like printer toner cleaners. I saw this on Retro Tech USA. Steve, he showed these in a recent live stream, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, they're a good idea. So let's see how these go. Well, that's not bad. It's going to take a couple of these. They tend to absorb everything, which is good. But yeah, it's doing the job on this thermal paste slowly. And this stuff is horrible to try and get off at the best of times. I'm going to get something plastic and just scrape at it a little bit. Obviously don't want to damage the heatsink itself, but do want to speed this up a bit. Wow, that is dry.
11 minutes later.
Gotta say, I've never come across one where the thermal paste was that hard to get off. That was next level. We're using some Arctic MX4 for this one. I think there's a bit of fluff trapped in there. That's annoying. Get out. We do not need that. And a dollop for you. And just a touch for you. That is plenty. All right, what are we going to do? Let's do GPU first. Make sure they're all hooked in properly. Looks good. CPU, just clean that up a little. Okay, I think that should be it. We have a working HDMI output, we've replaced the thermal paste, cleaned everything up, and sorted out the optical drive. So, time to get this thing reassembled. I'm just going to put a drop of glue there. That should hold it. Should be right. Finally, reassembly. Seems good. Forgot that. Or you can just sneak it in afterwards. Nice. And finally, front face. Now looking around, I only had a white face, but I'm going to roll with it. Of course, that end first. Wow, that was quite the adventure. It's a bit of a mixture, but this machine is now a bit of a mixture of parts anyway, so I'm cool with that. Let's give this a final polish. Oh, it's just soaking that up. It's thirsty. Right, and there it is, our fully repaired and cleaned Xbox 360. Yeah, the vents in the back still might have a little bit of dust in them, but you know, this thing was pretty rough. So it's never going to look brand new. It's not even necessarily going to look original, but yeah, I reckon it looks all right. And unlike 20-something-year-old me, who was just armed with an electric fry pan and a hot air gun, this machine should actually work longer than a couple of hours. I guess that remains to be seen, but let's power this thing up one last time, make sure it still functions right now. Let's power it on from the controller. Sweet. It's a good start. I will be wiping the hard drive soon enough, so we won't worry about that. It's detected our game, that's always good. And what else have you got? Good old feeding frenzy. Gotta have some zoomer. I don't want gonna sign in. Fine. It's been a long time. Okay, let's do a bit of that, don't I? Wow, I passed the first level, aren't I amazing? I think that is it for this one. The other camera up there has already died, so I think it is time to call it. I don't actually have any other disc-based games apart from Guitar Hero, so we can't really go into that, but I do have another option floating around here somewhere. So yeah, we'll get to that in a future video. But as for this one, that is it for now. So thank you all for watching. A huge thanks to the people that support the channel on Patreon and allow me to keep making videos like this. And yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and all that YouTube bullshit. I will hopefully catch you in the next one. Bye.